When you consider a company, in fact, basically you are considering your users. So how to find the right solutions for users' needs. So tech trends for us are more a mean, not an end by itself. With more technologies, with more machine doing some stuff for us, perhaps we'll have more time to do some other things. So the point will not be about technologies, but it's about how to better use the global resources we have.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Learning from Leaders series. Welcome to all of our students that are joining us during their Business Immersion Week as well. Today, we have the immense pleasure to welcome Loïc DiasDa Silva, which is the Chief Technology Officer at TheFork. It's going to be a big and great learning session. And to accompany you during this session, as always, Peter is here with us. Good afternoon, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing great. As you know, I've had some happy news in my personal life. We welcomed a second daughter. So thank you. I'm very happy. Didn't sleep so much, but I think this is going to be a very energizing conversation that's going to keep us all awake and more than that for the coming hours. So let's dive right into it. And indeed, it's such a pleasure, Loïc, to welcome you. You are indeed today the CTO of TheFork, but you actually have a long career in technology, and I'd love to ask you a couple of questions about that, because I think you're an inspiration for many of the students that are here today. The path that you've charted for yourself, and of course the companies, the iconic companies, new companies that you've worked for. So why don't we just get right into it? And I should start by asking, I use the app every day, or not every week, but every week at least, TheFork. But some people may not know TheFork. Could you maybe just kick us off and tell us very briefly what it is that TheFork does? How big is the company? Where is it active? And could you lead us into just a little bit of the information on TheFork?
Yes, hello Peter. Hello everyone. First, before starting about TheFork, I really just want to say that I would have really loved to have this opportunity, this kind of opportunity when I was a student, to have the feedback from the ground. And the reality is generally less shiny that we could imagine. And what you are doing, Peter, I think is really important. So yes, if I can give a bit of what I learned, I really enjoy to do it. To talk a bit about TheFork. TheFork, for those who don't know it, is a marketplace for diners to find the perfect dining experience, as we say, and for restaurants to advertise their offer for targeted diners. So TheFork, it's about a 60K restaurant in Europe, in 12 countries.
60,000 in 12 countries, yeah.
Exactly. About 30 million downloads from now, 20 million plus monthly visits, 20 million plus also restaurant reviews, which is really important for diners to choose the right restaurant. And we are currently, hopefully, the leader in online restaurant booking in Europe only, and in a challenging post-COVID world.
It's very interesting. And I think, of course, the students that join us from Barcelona campus, from Geneva campus, they will certainly know TheFork and have used it. They may know it from a different name, right? It wasn't used to called El Tenedor in Spain?
El Tenedor, sí, la fourchette in France. Yeah, totally. It was initially launched in France and Spain from an idea of a French chef that perhaps you know, Alain Casse.
Wow.
2006. Then after we launched also Switzerland and Belgium during the years 2012, 2014. Then we have been acquired by TripAdvisor, yes. And this acquisition permits us to spread over Europe. We even had a presence in South America just before the COVID. Just talking about it before the opening of the conference. So yes, it's a long process of expansion on quite different markets with different challenges.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And so you were telling us, I'm assuming if you're the market leader in continental Europe, that your biggest markets must be like Germany and France. But you told us that your biggest market is in fact a third country. Which one is it?
It's Italy.
Wow.
Yeah, Italy is our market. people love restaurants and people love food in Italy.
They certainly do. And then you told us something else, which I found interesting, which is that your market, of course, you're the market leader and perhaps the only player in some markets. But you said actually you do have competitors. It just depends on which specific part of the market you look at. And the one that we all know and use is sort of the front facing or the customer facing part of it, which is the reservations that we do online. But your positioning in the market and your strength in the market comes from the fact that you also offer restaurants all kinds of other services along the value chain. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So it's a marketplace, in fact. So we have a product for diners. So basically how to search to find the right restaurant and to book it. But after we have also what we call ERB, restaurant reservation booking system, and it's a system which allows restaurants, in fact, to manage the restaurant, manage their booking, and it's also very important for us because diners cannot wait to have an acknowledgement of their booking. And it's we need a presence in the restaurant in order to know which tables are free, the different kind of services the restaurant have, etc. So it's really...
I mean, what people used to do when they looked at the map, they print out a map and they said, we've got table 25 and table 40, and they would assign then reservations, and then they have to scratch it out if somebody canceled.
And we are launching the payment since 2 years now. And it's also a new market, a really interesting one.
And payments would mean that people actually can use their credit card to pay with an app, such as a Stripe app, but then one from TheFork.
The credit card, or even gift cards, or even Google Pay, Apple Pay, etc. Yeah.
I mean, I want to know all about it, but let's take it step by step. First of all, we got a question from David from Switzerland, who's asking, if you think about all those 60,000 restaurants, all those 30 million users, what's a team that you have at TheFork for managing all of that? How many people work at TheFork?
We have a bit more than 1,000 people all over Europe, and also a bit in Australia and Argentina.
Wow.
We have about 350 people at product and engineering, and I'm responsible for engineering people. So it's about 250 people, 250, depending on the...
Yeah, so it shows that a really big part of a company like that is exactly the product, is the engineering, is the technology side of things. About a third of people, of all people work there, in a quarter actually report to you. On the other hand, 1,000 people to manage 30 million customers is nothing, right? So it also tells you something about how much you can scale with a technology company, because the software, of course, if you build it right, which I'm sure your team has done over the years, can allow you to get that scale. Tell us a little bit about, the fact that when I think about most apps that I use, they are American apps. A lot of the big tech companies also are American companies. I'm thinking about Amazon for, online purchases. I'm thinking about Facebook and Instagram for social media. I'm thinking about Google for search and also big purchasing. So how come TheFork is actually a European company? It's a French company.
Yeah, I think it's when you think a bit about it, I think it's quite normal because it's a cultural reason. I think in Europe, especially in France, more globally in some countries, there is a strong culture of food, and gastronomy.
Yes, there certainly is.
There is plenty of small restaurants. People love to gather around food. People love to talk even about food. And in US and perhaps even more generally in northern countries, European countries, people tend more to eat and live. The food experience by itself is generally less important than in Europe. So yes, I think there is a huge culture of food in Europe, Spain, France, Portugal. So I think it explains this reason. Yeah. It's a local business, It's very hard to have the Uber of restaurants because you have to convince restaurants change every day. You have new restaurants, others are closing. So you need
so you have to be hyper local. You have to know the market. You probably have to have sales agents that are from the country to get everyone on board. You have to have the finesse of the language and of how people like to do their purchases, et cetera, in restaurants. I mean, that makes sense. Now, of course, you did explain it earlier on in the beginning that at some point there was an exit for the founders of TheFork. That means that they actually sold their business to another tech company, a bigger tech company, one that we also all know, I think, which is TripAdvisor, which I know from using it for travel. Now that is in Massachusetts, a US company. So could you tell us a little bit about how that has been? You now work for, I suppose you're a US a company, a French subsidiary in a way. How did that go, and how is that going for you?
It's obviously rich, but in fact, we are quite autonomous in the strategy establishment, which is quite very good because TripAdvisor is first an industrial group. It's not a financial group managing with a lot of financial assets. It's really an industrial one, working on a very passionate budget topic business, which is the trips, and so food is a logical
extension.
Yeah. So we benefit, in fact, from the structure of an American company when it comes, for instance, to legal, HR, financial processes, tools, and practices. So it's really a big help for us. We don't lose a lot of time in this. They help us a lot. And yes, probably during the COVID times, we didn't made these 2 years without having TripAdvisor. So
right, because of course the business collapsed, obviously, because you're all about physical restaurant visits, and there were none for a couple of months, none at all. And so you needed, of course, some cash to keep the company going, to keep people on the payroll. And that, of course, was possible because you had a bigger owner that had some deep pockets. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. That's totally right.
So there are advantages to that, and various. On the one hand, you have a shared back office, or you have expertise on that. On the other hand, you have the financial help, and so you can combine a bit the best of both worlds. It's an amazing story. Now, of course, TheFork is like any other company faced with this question of like, what's next, right? What's our next market? What's our next product? You already told us a little bit about it, namely the fact that you're working on payments. But what's the most exciting product that you and your team are working on right now?
First, we need to keep the expansion of the core business by itself. It's a challenge. And we have also very exciting product like the payment. I talked a bit about payment. We are very at the beginning of this payment history. We are just trying to understand how it works. How can you use TheFork to pay at the restaurant? It is not clearly obvious, and we have to think about all this experience. We introduced also the gift card. It's not so obvious, in fact, to pay your restaurant with a gift card. And you can buy gift cards at the shop. Your company can give you some gift cards to pay at the restaurant. It's very something new that we are trying, and also more specifically dedicated to data. For instance, we are working a lot on revenue management, how to help the restaurant on the data that we have to better manage the restaurant, to better manage the bookings. It's what we call yield management, to optimize their booking and the general management of their tables using data.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And maybe I should ask you a follow-up question, and so that we actually understand what the business model is of TheFork. I mean, we understand who your customers, we understand what services you offer. We also understand, of course, as users, how it benefits us. But do you charge per booking made? Do you charge per year for a restaurant of a certain size? What is the way that you actually are structured on that side?
Yeah, it's basically the bookings. So we take money on the booking, and depending on the number of people you use to book, we take charge on the booking. And we also have some benefits from the ERB, so from the software we sell to the restaurants. but honestly, it's not the huge part.
So if I want to help the restaurant and I want to make sure that they don't lose money when I cancel a booking, which, by the way, I had to do last week on Valentine's Day because my wife just gave birth to our daughter. Am I better off calling the restaurant and saying, I'm sorry, we can't make it, which I thought was like the sensible and nice thing to do? Or am I better off, just doing it directly on the app so that they don't get charged for that online booking?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of our main challenges, to fight the no-show, because you are nice, Peter, so you cancel your booking. But a lot of people don't cancel it. And you have a lot of people who, for instance, make 3 bookings and decide at the end which restaurant they will choose. And it's a very huge loss for a lot of restaurants. So we have some features in order to fight this no-show. But usually it implies to pay a part of your booking before going to the restaurant.
So you need the payment.
Yeah, or to give the fingerprint of your credit card. So we charge you for a part of the diner if you don't come, these kind of things. It's a very huge challenge for us and for the restaurant, definitely.
Well, I'm very curious to see what you're going to come up with in the next few years. I hope you're not going to charge me. I'm definitely enjoying your service and I'm actually benefiting from it. I think you're giving me 20, 30%, sometimes half off if I book early enough in advance. But let's talk a little bit about you, Loïc, because, you've, of course, you're somebody with a lot of experience. You're now in this amazing seat at TheFork, company we all know and love. But you didn't start out that way, did you? You started in telecom back in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. How come you made that decision to go in such a, at that time, traditional industry, as opposed to, the exciting tech startup that even then was already happening?
Telco in the tech world, especially in 2000, was the school of tech world, in fact. According to me, the internet was telco at this time.
Yeah.
So they were the first to develop services on mobile phones, for instance. You can remember of WAP, for instance.
Yeah.
They were the first.
MMS.
MMS, they were the first to develop services. On Orange, where I started, was one of the first in the world, in fact, to build multimedia services platforms, even before American companies.
So it was a good learning school for you.
So very good, with a very high level of technicity, quality management, innovation. Your phone usually works, and they wanted to apply the same kind of practices on the web.
On the management technical side, yeah.
Good learning. And it was a perfect path, in fact, with some insight, I think I could not have found a better way to learn than starting in such a great company at the beginning of my career, definitely.
So if you had to start your career today, would you still say that it's a good place to start as a telecom company, or would you now say there's like emerging or established tech giants that may be just as good as a learning school?
If I had to start now,
yeah, because that's what students will do. I mean, the students that have joined us, they're going to choose next year, 2 years, what they're going to do.
Different times, different choices. I think that now, perhaps the best way to learn is either a startup. So you learn to really you don't even know if you will make the next month, or in a big giant. But in a big giant, perhaps it's a bit segmented. You learn in silos. In a startup, you learn a lot of things, or perhaps you can have great ideas to begin your own business, I will say.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because your next step after telco was in fact to work, I think, for what was then at that point a startup, which was Viadeo. Now, I don't know Viadeo because maybe I didn't spend enough time in France at that time. But it is a classifieds company, online classifieds. Basically, you go there and you look for something to buy, probably including houses, right? And so, and that's where you worked for. Why did you then decide to go from the telco to that world of online startups?
Yeah, Viadeo was not a classified. It was a really professional social network. It's like a LinkedIn, in fact.
Okay.
It was the only
you see
one.
that's what you had. That's what happened. At that time I was in Germany, so we had a different company there even before LinkedIn. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, so it's the same thing in France. So it was, I think, also a good path for me, because the social network is so complex in terms of numbers of features. And at Orange, at one point, my ability to take this became too limited. It's very huge giant, you know. And as I was growing, my decision power stayed the same. And I wanted to be able to do the thing without being dependent, you know, of a huge hierarchy of numerous validation committees and strategical boards. And at Viadeo, I entered as a chief API architect. At the time, you know, when the APIs start to become the thing, everyone was
so the
talking.
API, of course, which is the sort of the connection between, you know, an app and then a website, or, you know, basically it's sort of the connecting piece between established internet infrastructure and then whatever you're building. Am I right?
Yeah, it's the same thing than a mobile interface or web interface, but for machines. And machines don't need images or pictures, styles, and so they just pick up content. And API just a way to access a website or mobile app in the machine language.
Yeah. But what I find interesting is that you say, as I was growing at Orange, I felt that I wanted to grow, but my decision power, you said, it remained the same. In other words, you were not given that opportunity to take more autonomy in your decisions, and that's why you moved over to a startup. I think that's a very valuable lesson for anyone, to know that at some point, you know, as you develop in your career, it's important to reassess, like, hey, am I still able to do what I need to be able to do to grow? And when you can't, it's okay to then decide to go somewhere else. Now,
You
yeah,
know, people, HR people, when I said that I wanted to leave, they said, "You are crazy. Everyone wants to work for Orange France Telecom. Why are you leaving? You are so young and you have your own path." Just because I had not this decision level. And joining Viadeo, I was able to decide about the global architecture of the company. And finally, I became a head of architecture. And I had this opportunity to grow in the company. In France Telecom, it would have taken perhaps 10 years more to grow at this stage of my career, I think.
yeah, it's really interesting to see when people decide to jump and for what reasons, and I think we can learn a lot from that. Now, you spent a few years at Viadeo, and then you actually did go, now I'm getting this right, to a classifieds company, which is Seloger. And I know I get it right this time because I actually use Seloger myself, living very close to France. I love the website, very user-friendly, very nice. And so you became the CTO there at Seloger. Could you tell us, because that's a big step, even you were, you know, already on a path up, you had that decision power that improved it at Viadeo, but you were not yet at that level, I suppose, of being a CTO of a well-established company. So how did that go? How did you make that transformation happen?
Yeah, first I became CTO of Viadeo before, so it helped a lot because starting a new position in a very new company, I think, is not the right way to do it. So I became CTO during 2 years at Viadeo before taking the responsibility of at Seloger, with a totally different landscape, because I had from 60 to 80 engineers in Viadeo. I came in Seloger with 150 engineers. Then after 2 years, I had 300 engineers. So in 2 years, I doubled the number of engineers, and we had so many challenges in this company. I learned a totally different job. So the thing I learned about the job, you know, CTO, I think you have as many CTOs as companies.
I believe that that's true, and that's true for a lot of positions in executive management. Now, at Seloger, maybe just to finalize that conversation, what were some of the major accomplishments that you had when you were there on the technology product side?
Yeah, Seloger was not really a startup already at this time. As I said, it was already a very established company, and I had the objective to transform the company. It was a 25 years company at this time, you know. And it started from the Minitel, selling classified to the Minitel. And so from doubling the number of engineers, I had also to rewrite all the platform for 12 different websites to move all the company to the cloud. So not an easy decision after more than 20 years on in-premises data center to move everything to the cloud, to train everyone, and also to restructure all the teams to software methodology. So it was really to put Sologer on another world from the ancient one to the very new and modern one.
Yeah, a real transformation at the same time as pursuing growth, making sure that everyone who was already there would fit into the new structure with all those different websites for different markets. Now, I want to also ask you a few personal questions, if I may, Loïc, because when we first talked a few months ago, you told me a little bit about, sort of your personal life and the choice that you made for your career in that regard. And one of the things that struck me is that, obviously working in tech, like you could have pursued maybe big money, faster growth, more learning if you had, for example, started your career in Silicon Valley or somewhere else where there's a big tech startup. But rather, you actually always stayed in France. Very impressive companies, impressive track record, and in fact, you are now at the very top of, let's say the tech world in Europe. But that was not a given. So why did you decide to stay in France, to stay put, as opposed to pursue a career in shiny Silicon Valley or somewhere else?
It's a very simple answer. In fact, I think the first is that I love my country. It's my father,
a real patriot.
When he came from Portugal, to find another life, and I wanted to work in France, Europe. I think it's a land of great values, and values, I think, are probably what differentiate us from other animals. And I'm closer to European values of equality, fraternity, democracy, I think, than American one. So it's first element. The values, and also honestly the most beautiful thing I made in my life at the end was my daughter, and she lives in France, and I just have her 1 week or two. I have to take care of her, and I just didn't want it to break any relationship with her, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that really holds important lessons for all of us, isn't it? That on the one hand, you have to live in a society where you also feel like you're comfortable and you can believe in the values that it holds and the way it's structured, beyond sort of its economic potential. And the other thing is, of course, that we are not just our career selves, we're not just our professional selves, we are also our personal selves, our family selves. And that's very important, if not maybe the most important thing. I think you would agree. Now, you actually did make it to the top. We talked to some founders, including some in Silicon Valley, in fact, who told us that they had to sacrifice a lot to make it to the top. And that they actually did so with a lot of gusto, with a lot of, they considered that's the price you have to pay. You want to make it, you got to work hard, and then you have a good shot, but you can't work 9 to 5 and make it to the top. What's your view on that? Having, let's say, a little bit more of a nuanced path to success?
Yeah. It depends on what you are searching, My goal has never been to succeed, in fact. I just wanted to do cool stuff and be useful to people. The thing is that when you are useful to people, when you help them, I think to succeed, to grow, you are always rewarded at one point. And just live your life. Perhaps it's the thing to do. What's the point to succeed sacrificing this short-lived thing that is life? Just to succeed like this. I'm not interested, in having my name written on the ground of Mars. I just want, I think, to be useful to people, interested in living a good life. And honestly, it's what I said, when you are just doing the right thing for the people, you are rewarded, I think. And I really think of it. You create the opportunities.
Yeah, it's beautiful that you have that view, and of course, it's something that you've had for a while, for a long time, and the choices that you've made in your career. But also, it's something that you now can already say, even though you still have a lot of years ahead of you in your career, but you can also look back a bit and share that advice with us that they're just starting, let's say. And so, maybe to end this first part of the conversation, I want to ask you this, which is, if you wanted to give any piece of advice to young people today, people that are attending today that are starting out and that want to pursue a career like yours, what's the one piece of advice you would give to them?
I say the first one is do what you like, in fact. Huh? Always put your people's interest before yours. I think it will always pay back. Find you perhaps great values to believe in and always stick to them. It will always pay back too. And don't be impatient, perhaps, also. There is no point to reach too fast your glass ceiling, you know, and we all have one. And if you reach it at 30 years old, what to do next of your life?
Yeah.
So take the opportunity when they come, because they will come if you apply the previous advices and live your life. There is only one, I think.
That's amazing. Now I want to turn to some questions from students, Loïc. But before I do, I just have to ask you this. You're joining us from your home. You told us earlier on, which I usually start with that question. I should have, but you shared it to us earlier on in the conversation. You're joining us from home, close to Paris, close to the Bois de Vincennes, which is a beautiful forest in the outskirts of Paris. But I want to ask you this: what's the gun you have on the back of your room there?
It's not a gun, it's a katana. It's to cut the architecture monoliths, you know.
Okay, so we shouldn't be afraid that you're gonna,
No,
pick up your
don't be afraid.
bayonet and point a gun to us. It wouldn't hurt us anyway. We're virtual, but it's funny. Okay,
But
well,
don't enter in my home if it's closed.
okay. Okay, well, listen, we want to get to some questions from students, and I'd like to actually start with Vicente Correa, who is a Venezuelan, just like my wife's also Venezuelan, but who's joining us from the beautiful country, Vicente, of Tanzania. And I'd love to see what you have in store for us in terms of questions for Loïc. Go ahead.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much, Loïc. Merci. So I saw on TheFork's LinkedIn profile that the employees were speaking about how multicultural the company is. So I'm curious to know how you've managed to lead such a diverse team so successfully.
Very good question. Thank you, Vicente. That's an easy one. I think the COVID facilitated it a lot, in fact, because being in France all together, we basically use video conference every time. So now, you know, having people in France or Italy or Spain or even Argentina, it doesn't make a lot of difference. And we try to travel, especially by train when we come instead of plane. It's very important as we are very on sustainability at TheFork. And also, what I can say is that the diversity, in fact, is really a chance to open your mind, you know, to learn. When you speak with Italian and Spanish and German people, it's totally different way of seeing the world. And yeah, it's always interesting, even when you think that you have been understood and you understood what the other said. Sometimes it's not so obvious. So perhaps you know the book, The Culture Map. If you don't know it, I really propose you to read this book. It's very, very insightful.
Oh, that's amazing. I think we should take note of that. The culture map, Vicente, I think that was. Do you have another question, Vicente?
Yeah, might as well. As we were speaking about your personal choices towards your career, what might be some of the most difficult decisions that you've had to make throughout?
Wow. The most difficult decisions are always the same. It's a decision about people, in fact. So sometimes people can be good in one environment and toxic in another, for instance. So I think the most difficult decisions are always to let someone leave or even to ask someone to leave. And sometimes it's the best thing for him and for the company. And it's never easy because people want to take him personally, and it's quite normal, I think. And you take it also personally when you have to explain this to someone. You know, it's you, and it's not me. In fact, it's me as CTO. I do my job. I do I play my role.
Yeah, it's really not easy, and of course, managing a company is a lot about managing people, and so we appreciate that you share that insight. By the way, Marianne shared with everybody a link in the chat about the book, The Culture Map. So if you want to read it more about it, you can do so based on the chat. I'd love to bring in Akol now. Akol, who is in fact in Dubai, originally from South Sudan, and who is combining studies in the digital campus with also having been in Barcelona. Wow, that's a lot, Akol. What question would you like to ask to Loïc?
Thank you, Peter and Louis. It's a great honor to be with you here. And thanks also for your advice that you have to be yourself as a person. And later, as we grow in life, I think being good to others is it's my simple belief that whenever you walk and just focus on walking decently, you will always get reward. So I think, thank you for that advice. I think my question is, as a CTO of your organization, what strategies do you use to keep up with the rapid changing technology trends? Because your business is basically on technology. And what do you do? Because everything is changing every day. People are coming up with new stuff.
The technology in the world changes every day, but when you consider a company, in fact, basically you are considering your users. So how to find the right solutions for users' needs. And so tech trends for us are more a mean, not an end by itself, you know. So if it's interesting to take one new trend, new tech trend to develop some new solution for our users, okay, we can consider it. But if we change, you know, the new front-end framework every week, it's never-ending work, and it's not our job. So for sure, we always have the new tech trends, but the main point for us is more to anticipate obsolescence. You know, to identify the really good big that we cannot miss.
Well, you know, that's a good answer, but I think we want more from you, Loïc. Akol, I think you had a second question, and I'd love to hear you to ask that one too, and then I'll add in my own.
Okay, thank you again, Louis, for the wonderful answer. For years, Elon Musk has been warning that the world, AI, the artificial intelligence, will one day run the human absolute. And I see you have a lot of human beings working with you. Do you share this sentiment? And what is your take on this?
Yeah, and I want to add to that, Loïc. This is a question we get from the chat. You know, David again asking from Switzerland, what do you think the biggest challenges are as a CTO? And he's asking specifically when it comes to artificial intelligence. So you're not going to be able to get out of this conference without addressing AI. Go ahead.
I think that perhaps comparing to Elon Musk, it's an easy one. I think that as other technologies, it will help humans at the end. We should keep it in mind. So probably some jobs will not be the same. Probably the job of engineers will not be the same in 10 years. And I think it's a good thing because I think that probably in 10 years, we will not re-implement the same algorithms, doing the same implementation of web pages, mobile application, you know, every day. I hope that we will do something more interesting for the global humanity. After it's an interesting trend because perhaps we will have more time to do some more interesting stuff. You know, with more technologies, with more machine doing some stuff for us, perhaps we'll have more time to do some other things. So the point will not be about technologies, but it's about how to better use the global resources we have, how to better spread it into all of us, and to not let, you know, an elite taking all the resources for us.
Now that sounds, you know, that sounds all good, but it sounds a little vague. We want to know, are you using AI at TheFork? Are you going to? Or are you going to get in trouble if you don't? What's up with AI at TheFork?
We are testing some things, for instance, on content management for SEO. It could be a very interesting point for us. But for now, what we tested with ChatGPT, especially, is not at the right level. ChatGPT is making a lot of inventions. You know, it invents facts, and it's not okay for us, because if we let him, for instance, try to make a description of a restaurant or of a food, it just does in his imagination, but it's not true. So we cannot let him create content for us that it's not true. So
wow, that's very interesting. So you're saying that ChatGPT, which by now we've all tested and we've been very impressed by, maybe some of us have used it for assignments. If you have, you know, feel free to share. I won't tell your teacher. You're saying that that technology, which is so amazing, is actually not good enough for you.
Not yet. So we have new versions, you know, every 2 months, every 3 months, ChatGPT is improving. But in the current version of ChatGPT and this kind of technologies, they are not yet ready for us.
Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear it that, you know, Loïc, you can say with confidence that, you know, you're better than AI, and humans are better than AI, at least for the time being. It's interesting, you know, maybe taking us back to the you know, to the world, the real world, let's say, rather than the inventions of ChatGPT and AI. Just want to throw in this question from Miriam from Barcelona, and she's asking, on a very practical level, how do you choose then the restaurants that you work with?
How we choose?
Yeah.
It's a smart mix between the needs of our diners, because if we only have one kind of restaurant, they will not be interested by. After, we have partnerships. For instance, we have an exclusive partnership with a Michelin restaurant. So if you want to book a Michelin restaurant, you have to use TheFork, in fact, for a large part of them, at least. And after, it's a restaurant who want to work with us also, who have some needs that we can fulfill. So it's a marketplace. So it's always the same thing for all marketplaces. You know, it's to find the right balance between the need and the enough volume to be relevant.
That's very interesting. And maybe as a follow-up to that, Arman is asking, you know, if you go into a new market, what is your user or the acquisition strategy? How do you actually get to scale quickly enough to become relevant in a new market?
If we had a secret sauce, I think I will either not say it.
Armand Cass, doesn't he have secret sauces? Is that not what he's all about?
No, it's a huge problem each time. What I can say is that we don't conquer a country. Usually, when we are in Switzerland, in fact, we are not in Switzerland. We are in Geneva, and it's done. Because it's a country in terms of food industry is more a mix of several big cities. So usually we start with a district, and we see how it went in this district, and then we go on another, and pieces by pieces we made a city, and cities after cities we made a country.
Oh wow, that's a very Napoleonic strategy.
Yeah.
I like it. You know, final question on that, just out of personal interest. I once tried to go to Osteria Francescana, which, you know, is one of those great Michelin or best restaurants in the world in Italy, and I could not get a reservation. It was absolutely impossible. Are you saying that now, thanks to TheFork, that I actually might get a reservation because it's managed through your company, or is it still as hard as ever?
We have a partnership with Michelin. So basically, restaurants are asked to join TheFork instead of a potential competitor. But we cannot force restaurants to use TheFork.
I see.
So I don't know the exact situation of yours, but we will try. But
too bad. I was hoping to get it done through you, but
it's a very interesting one. I can mix your two previous questions because we had some studies, for instance, to use blockchain in order to manage this kind of situation. It would be interesting, for instance, to make a booking in a very heavily demanded restaurant, and after to sell this booking. Could be interesting, in fact, to sell your booking.
Totally.
And the restaurant can be interested to have a part of the selling of this ticket, for instance.
Well, I didn't want to give you any ideas. I was just trying to get a reservation. So if it's now going to cost me more money, then please forget about it. I want to move on to Anna. Anna, who's joining us, I think, from Barcelona, right, Anna? But you're from Georgia, which I believe has many great restaurants. So too bad that you're not active in Georgia, Loïc. But Anna, you have some questions about the digital aspect of the job, don't you?
Sure. First of all, thanks, Loïc, for joining us. And I've been using your app for over 2 years when I just came to Barcelona. And it actually helped me book places in Georgian restaurants when I wanted to remind my home country. And so regarding your app design and web design strategy, I really like it. And in your years of experience as a front runner of digital, what is the one of your key learnings about web and app design?
I think it's the same idea of the answer regarding a question around management. I answered about management to just think about people first. And I think it's the same thing on app web design. In fact, it's only do what is useful for the customer. And do not believe you know what to do. Usually it's the first thing, you think about a feature and you say, it's the killer feature, it will work. But in fact, none of customers want it. So try, fail, learn. It's not a new thing, but to apply it in real life, it's not so easy. You have to let your ego aside and really test new features to the customers and be ready to kill your feature, to kill your best idea of the night. It will not work because the customer don't want it. So do not force your users and customers to use a feature that they don't want. And it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, to remind yourself. Go on, Anna.
Do you have example of such a feature that you implemented in your app? And then
a very great one. A very, very great one. So it's the authentication page at Viadeo. It was very an ancient one. When you fail your login, the page was reloaded with very red warning saying it's not the good login. Your login was disappeared from the input box. And we saw it and we said, okay, we have to change it. We have so new modern ways of doing it. So we tested a new feature. With no loading, you enter the false login and password, and you had just a little red label saying your login password is not the good one. And we made a A/B test. We tested during some weeks both versions, and we had a degradation of more than 10% of the new version, the new page version. It was just unbelievable for us. And we never understood why. But the fact is that our customers were not used to have this kind of just notice red label. They wanted a new load. And they understood that reloading the page, not having the web page, the website, was a good signal on the fact that the login was not good. And I never understood, but the fact the customers
understandable. So
that's
customers are always right.
Yeah. Anna, you had a second question, I think. What was that one?
Yes, I just also wanted to ask you regarding the COVID, because it had a great impact on our restaurant and the food business. So did you have any big challenges that you managed to overcome during pandemic?
Due to the pandemic?
Yeah.
Or before the pandemic?
Due to pandemic.
Due to the pandemic, yeah. Not original, but it was really a very new way of working. It was a transformation of everything. We had every day 1 hour of a discussion with the executive leadership team. It was something we never managed, and so we tried. We made mistakes, but at the end, I think we well managed it. I'm less satisfied with what we have now. As a manager, it's not really easy. You know, for individual contributor, I think it's a good thing. It's a new step up because you can have a better life, mixing your professional and individual personal life. But for managers, it's not really easy because vast majority of your job is to people, in fact, to connect with them. And with the video conference, if you don't have a specific meeting plan to discuss about something, you don't speak, in fact. You don't discover a new thing. You don't have the coffee machine anymore. And we tried something. You have some tools. We try to emulate the coffee machine, you know, but it's not the same thing than just crossing someone in the street, in front of the building, smoking a cigarette or anything else.
Yeah. I know a lot of people in France still smoke cigarettes, but Loïc, it's not good. We don't want people to smoke cigarettes. But in any case, thank you for that. I think we've got a great plan for this hour. We're filling it. We're making it a great use of it. So maybe let's get to the last student, Omar. Omar from Lebanon, is that right, Omar? But you're also in Barcelona. What question do you have for
yeah, hi, thank you for the introduction, Peter, and nice to meet you, Loïc. My main question is, earlier you were speaking with Peter and you mentioned that for people who want to enter the business world, either start in a sense at the startup, which are considered like the goldfish of the business world, or at the sharks, the big companies. What would you say is the main mistake that entrepreneurs in the tech world make? And what should they do instead, keeping in mind that digitalization has opened a market for entrepreneurial initiatives, and it has such high competitiveness as well?
I think that perhaps it looks like the question of Anna in one sense. I think the biggest mistake for an entrepreneur probably would be to believe they have the answer, they have the solution to an non-existent problem. You know, it's so easy to say, "Hey, it's a very great idea, it's incredible," but in fact, no one wants it. It's not a great idea, even if it perhaps it will be a great idea in 10 years, or it has been a great idea 10 years ago. So I think the best mistake could be to not listen to their customers, or even to listen, but to ignore them. And we have a lot of examples like this of startups we think have a very, very great solutions to a non-existent problem, or they don't even listen to the feedbacks of their customers, or even they are very modern, they listen to them with panels, etc., but they don't take care of the feedbacks at the end. So probably it's the biggest mistake.
Omar, do you want to ask your second question as well? I thought that was interesting also.
What are the main factors that your team or the company, TheFork as a whole, what are the factors that make it stand out from all the competition or the competitive apps that are advancing and coming into the market at these stages?
And that's, by the way, a question also from Mohammed, who's joining us online, and who's asking what's the main competitive advantage, indeed, of TheFork, also from the perspective of the restaurants, which of course are your paying customers.
I think the first explanation, and it's a problem, is the fact that we were the only one. So we were the first to do it. It's a problem because when you have competitor, you are not as good as you can be with competitors. So you can slip a bit, you know, on your already existing market. And so we begin to have a competitor in some part of our business, and I think it's a very good idea. It's a very good thing. And the other thing is a passion. We have a passion for food. Everyone at TheFork is hired because at least he have a passion for food, or his parents are restaurant owners, or he wanted to build a new restaurant, or he's a very he like a lot to go to high-level restaurants. We have a lot of people like this who love food. And I think it's a good differentiator. It's not only a business. We love what we do.
Yeah. And of course, you have been very successful and conquered most of the markets that you've been active in. Now, we did get a question also from somebody online who asked about, emerging markets, for example, in Latin America. And I think you mentioned that You've been active in some of the large Latin American markets. What do you find to be the main challenge when you look at those markets, or perhaps the main opportunity or the promise of those markets, and how can you capture those?
The issue is that it's totally different markets. So each time we have to adapt ourselves, you know, even between the southern countries or northern countries in Europe is totally different market. Italy, the challenge is to convince a restaurant who is using paper note to use a computer, to install a computer in his restaurant. In London, they have so many computers that they don't even know which one to use, and they need very heavily connected softwares. And in Southern America, it's something where people at this time were not used to use a lot their phone, their mobile laptop, sorry, to make books. And we had to invest a lot to conquer this market. And we acquired a Restaurando in Argentina, present also in Brazil and Chile, just 1 year or two before the COVID. And it was not sustainable for us. We were not able to invest in this country. So I think it was a really great leadership decision to say, okay, do not lose our time on markets that we are not able to develop.
That's a very interesting insight as well, isn't it? That you sometimes have to know where to stop, where you cannot grow, and then also make that decision rather than to lose time over it. Perhaps also both as a person and as a company, the example that you gave. Maybe a final question that I thought was quite interesting. On a personal level, somebody asks, how do you go about tackling, something like a burnout, the fact that you are overworked? What helps you clear your mind and find new opportunities, or find the strength or energy to keep going or to go again?
That's a very good one too. I decided 10 years ago to have normal hours. So I don't work the evening at home. I go at work at 9:30, and I leave at 6:30, 7 p.m., And okay, sometimes, some weeks, I need more work, and so I do more work during some days, but it should not be a rule. And it's something you have to decide. You are not less performant. In fact, you just have to hire people around you that are able to take the charge of part of your job. And it's even better because you have a great team around you. You are able to take vacations because you know that even when you are not there, people do the job, in fact. So it's a teamwork. You are not God, and it's totally okay. And it's even better to create a team around you instead of being alone. So I would say that it's rules, apply rules. You decide your rules and you stick to them.
I guess it also helps that, of course, at 7 o'clock, it's time for you to go to your booking that you made on TheFork,
Exactly.
to remind yourself that there's other things in life, which actually, in your case, same thing as what you're working on during the day, but to then finally enjoy it.
It's your own dog food, as we say.
Yeah. You ate your own food, quite literally almost. Well, Loïc, we learned so much from you during this hour. I really enjoyed it. And I think many people truly enjoyed this session, which combined, the very personal, insightful things with like very strategic and digital and technical insights. I won't forget that AI ChatGPT is not good enough for you, but also not yet. That's right. But also that there's a lot of things to keep in mind when building your career and when building companies, especially tech companies. So Loïc, thank you so much for spending this hour with us. We really enjoyed it. And so I guess it's now time for you to call it a day and go and enjoy your restaurant booking tonight. In any case,
for inviting me. And if some students have some more questions, do not hesitate also to forward to me. I will try to answer.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to Luc for the final words from Geneva.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you very much, Loïc, for your precious time. And I think the students really enjoyed their session. It was great to hear about the work-life balance, and I think that has been a big hit among our students. I see a lot of arts going on the screen, so That shows all the love that is given to you by the viewers. So great session, thank you. We hope we can extend it. We'll make sure to pass on the questions that are coming from our students. And don't hesitate to use TheFork for your bookings to all of our viewers. Next for us for our Learning from Leaders is on March 23rd, where we will have Jorge Brende, the president of the World Economic Forum, that will be coming and giving an hour to us to hear and to learn from him. So thank you very much. Good luck to our students that are continuing their Business Immersion Week. Lot of new experiences, lot of new learnings for them. And in the meantime, have a great evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.